Good morning. My name's Tom Lewellen, and I will be running for Congress in District 6. I want to thank everybody for coming. As you know, the only way you get currency in the world of ideas is to have the Fourth Estate come and talk and listen and engage. And so I appreciate everybody coming today, friends, little family, and so this is wonderful. I did especially want to thank Kimberly, who owns the Mercantile here and has allowed us this venue. I would also like to thank Melissa, my press person, for considering this, because this is really what civil is all about as a political party. This is, the basis of, our economy as individuals that go out and risk, their treasure, their fortune, and their ideas, and create something. We call it the small business world. I think sometimes people don't realize it's 5 million businesses. Now we realize it's a big part, but it's 5 million businesses. If only 1% of the businesses add a person, it's 50,000 people. That's a huge deal, right? But I think sometimes what's not seen in that context is it's actually an incubator. It's 5 million people with new ideas trying to make them better every day, to make you happier every day. But it's also, when you look at it, they're a business that's 1 or 2 people, like Steve Jobs and the Woz, but they keep growing, they keep churning, they keep making something better, and all of a sudden, one day, they're not just a mid-market business or a small business, they're a Fortune 500 company. And that's what this economy is about. It's a supply of ingenuity and innovation that feeds the big demand economy with all those big companies. And that's important because if you look back 50 years to the Fortune 500, and you compare that with what's left today, there's only maybe 80 companies left. There's not many. That churn here also goes on here. If you're not filling that funnel, the economy fails. If we're not focused on the institution of innovation as a key component to economic success in the 21st century, we're going to hurt ourselves. We're kind of focused there. We're not focused enough. We're not focused nearly enough. Education is failing us. The kind of people we bring into the country that immigrate, that could be businessmen coming our way, is not as good as it should be. So being able to be here today is a perfect description of what America needs to be doing. We need more Kimberlys and more Melissas and more Steve Jobs. Sorry he's gone these days. But at the end of the day, the more we have, the better our kids are going to have, the better our kids' future is going to be. It's really, really important. Why are we here today? It's like we've got a problem. We've got 2 political parties that, love to get their Twitter guns out and shoot each other. And over the last 10 years, it's just gotten so bad that 60% of the people in the United States, or excuse me, the voters in the United States, believe neither party represents them. I mean, that's terrible, right? They have no choices. There's nobody else to vote for. So what's the explanation at the end? Well, I voted for the least awful person. It's not exactly where you want to be. And we're not getting anywhere. They're literally not going anywhere. Every 2-4 years, we go back and forth between some set of ideas that nobody likes, half the people like and half the people don't like. And we get more and more anger, and the voter needs better choices. They're not getting them. And so that's why we're here. We hope to be the best choice. We hope you'll quit wasting your vote, because it's just enabling anger and meanness and incompetence. I want to talk about 4 things. Big money, irreconcilable differences, political monopolies. We've got one, a duopoly of 2. And then how do you win against a monopoly? It's not easy. Not easy without your help. But it is absolutely possible, and we're going to do it. So 1, big money. I mean big money. So there's a whole bunch of different facts I give. I'll just focus on 1. So the top 100 people giving money to federal elections in 2016 gave $790 million. I'd like a little bit of that myself. So for me though, not the campaign. I mean, it's $790 million. It'll probably get close to $1 trillion this campaign. Those folks are buying power and influence. If you want to know about quid pro quo, that's where it is. These guys aren't trying to meet Billy Joe Bob for a cigar and a little whiskey because they like him and hand him a check. These guys want power. They help write laws to protect their treasure, and whether that's money or ideas or a special interest or a big union or whatever it is, It's for them, and it's backward-looking money. It is status quo, protect what I have versus look to the future. And it's ruining the country. It creates these angry, awful messages where at the end of a campaign, we don't like anybody either. So, you know, what do you do to fix that? And, you know, civil says, you know, money out, good guys in, good guys are you guys that are watching this, average people. So our take is, we're gonna ask everybody to take a civil 195 pledge. $200 is considered federally a big donation. Scales up pretty quick, as you can see. But at the end of the day, we just want small donations. We're gonna ask every candidate in the United States to take the civil 195 pledge. We'll see how many people have courage of their convictions, because a lot of people complain about big money and they don't do anything about it. So the civil 195 pledge is just that simple. Don't give big money. Now, at the end of the day, for our campaign, what does that mean? You know, George Soros isn't going to give me any money, not $195. Nor is Planned Parenthood or NRA or, you know, any of the other groups that are, you know, diametrically opposed to each other. And the reason is you cannot buy the power and influence they want with $195. So the big good is good. Big money out. Great news is money that's $10 gets you a voice. And that's what the people that aren't represented now need. You need a voice. Second, irreconcilable differences. If you go back 100 years, literally both parties pretty much agreed on the principles of government. Today, that is not true. You got two poles, and there's nothing in the middle. Big, you know, the level of big, expensive, complex, confusing, resultless government that just gets bigger and bigger. And the conservatives tend to talk about federalism and limited government, but at the end of the day, they spend like a bunch of drunken sailors as well, which is not helping. When it comes to key issues, though, they go to the corners, and then the Twitter wars start. They begin shooting, and nothing happens. So these big ideas that need to get solved are the ones that Civil's going to be talking about. Nothing happens. Nothing's happened on immigration in 30 years. You know, we've had a broken retirement system that's $50 trillion unfunded. Nobody talks about it. We have an education system we talk about a lot. We don't do anything. There's 2,000 schools that underperform. I don't hear anything. Second Syllable, give me something, guys. There's a whole bunch of things we can be doing, but there's nobody that can get between them and bring them together. And that's Civil's purpose here. There are some big things. We have a 5-point program, and at the end of the day, if we can get them to believe that they can solve these problems with Civil, we can grow the economy at 4.5% to 5%, which is where we need to be for our kids, right? So irreconcilable differences is not going to go away if you keep voting for these guys. So please, and don't give them money. It just encourages them. But think about how do you take ideas and create a better America by bringing everybody together. Third, political monopolies, or a duopoly. We've got two guys, Republicans and Democrats. And for 100 years, they've been writing laws that are big barriers to entry for any other party. In fact, no other party has really made it anywhere in 40 years, maybe a seat here or a seat there. Nothing goes on because the barriers getting in, the petitioning system, are so high. It's not only hard to do it, it's hard to stay on the ballot because there's usually a threshold with the number of votes you got to get. And nobody ever gets there, ever. So where do the new ideas come from? Nowhere, right? It just doesn't happen. So we keep looking backwards, and our kids are looking forward. And here's the terrible things. Our kids are looking forward and saying, you know, this doesn't look so good to me. I'm troubled, right? There's not a lot of hope in the future because 80% of us distrust government. So how do you beat a monopoly? How do you get around these things that are just too big barriers to really succeed? So, and that's kind of what we want to do. So the first thing is, you got to be different. You know, I had a great marketing manager years ago who said, hey, find out what the other guy's doing, don't do any of those things. It's like, that's a great way to kill a monopoly as well. So the first thing we're not going to do is we're not going to waste any contributors' money signing a bunch of petitions. That's not going to get us anywhere, long-term or short-term. We're going to use the ballot as our petition. We're going to write us in, and we're going to cause havoc at the Secretary of State because they're going to have to count the damn things or change the laws so we can have some entry into this political marketplace. The second thing, it goes back to the ideas. We have a five-step program that we think is going to be a very beneficial thing for all Americans. How do you find out about it? You don't do sound bites. You don't buy video. You don't buy radio. You don't buy this. You have actual debates where you invite the other parties in to bring their ideas and talk about them so we can provide information to the voter. When you look at the last senatorial election, they spent $35 million between the two candidates, and at the end of the election, my IQ was down 15 points, and I hated both of them. It's like, is that really the way you want to do this? Why don't we have debates and really open it up to really crucial problems and discuss it? So we're going to discuss our 5-point program in a series of debates. We're going to open it up to debate about climate, one of the most important things that almost nobody has any scientific background to kind of talk about, so they understand the problem or understand the solution. So we'll do that. We'll do capitalism versus socialism. Everybody's talking about it. 5-word sound bites angrily shot across the political spectrum. And anything that the press wants to bring to the table, we'll do that as well. So at the end of the day, how do you beat them? You do things different. You have to be entrepreneurial. You have to be the political unicorn, which I am. You have to change things. You have to do things differently. And that's what we're going to do. And that's why I'm Tom Lewellen, and I'm running for Congress. Thank you.
Can I ask you one other thing? That's really good, by
Yeah.
the way. So I'm very frustrated. A few years ago, I became involved in local issues.
Yep.
I even started a Facebook page that's become kind of controversial called Save Scottsdale. Have you seen it? Like it. It's kind of getting me into some trouble. Like right now, someone's trying to sue me for $250,000. He says I've defamed him. Meanwhile, he'll say the Littlefields cut out people's livers, grill them, and serve them. You know, but I'm defamed. And he's called me mentally ill, attention whore, deranged. Says I have history on personality disorder.
Shame on the lawyer who's.
He's not. I mean.
Well, whoever took that case.
Well, no one's taking his case.
Good.
He's a lawyer, but he's not practicing. And he's a big bully. And he was very involved in the bond campaign that we just had. Okay? So I consider him to be a public figure. He was the chairman of the PAC. They stepped down. He was one of the committee people. So I still haven't seen the fourth quarter, the third quarter donations, but the bond PAC, run by a PR firm that Melissa just loves, raised like $400,000. And just from the first 2 quarters that I was looking at least 90% of the donations were corporate donations, private donations. Bob Parsons, $25,000. You know, Craig Jackson. And then, so very few. And then the PAC, they paid for everybody's pro comments in the ballot pamphlet. Most people are not aware you have to pay $100 for a comment, which I think is grossly unfair. Yeah. It's misleading because most people don't know it. And all these people are saying, well, hey, Emily, how come there's only 2 comments against it? Well, there were 3 questions. You had to pay $100 per question that you were against. And they even told me, well, if you're pro, we'll pay for your comment. So they paid thousands of dollars for people's pro comments. And then they're saying, oh, we won, we did, and lower taxes. It's like, no, lower secondary property taxes, not for, we fought these people so hard. Now, where this guy wants to sue me is because I'm a stickler for the truth. And he was saying, oh, we need a $32 million pool rebuilt at Cactus Park because it's loaded with asbestos. It's not. There's no asbestos. He's never proved it. So I've teased him a lot. I've called him asbestos. And, you know, so I've defamed him. How is that? I have tried to get the truth out of him, saying, just admit that you lied. You misspoke. But he's one of these people who instead will say that you're mentally deranged, that you're an attention whore. I mean, all these horrible things. It is so ugly. It's intimidating to be in this. Yep. But then they're all saying, oh, well, everybody's for the bond. And I was out there fighting it, going, the $40 million of playing fields that they say we need? No, it's for Craig Jackson's parking lot because we sold all the state land. Yep. And they were trying to shut me up. And this is the kind of stuff I've been putting on Save Scottsdale. My audience is growing. Totally organic. I won't put 1 penny into it because they'll find a way to sue me and say it's a PAC or something. But this is what I find incredibly frustrating, that now this guy is writing me saying, okay, if you shut up, never say a word about me ever again, you know, maybe I'm not gonna sue you. He says I have until 5 o'clock tomorrow to decide what I wanna do. And it's like, wait a minute, so you're censoring me. If you weren't a public figure, I don't ever wanna hear your name again. But you can't tell me, threaten me if I tease you or make, you know, little jabs at you,
Constitutional
which I stand behind, then I'm gonna be sued?
So you're familiar with the public figure law versus general libel, because there is a difference.
Well, I've been told that
Yeah.
libel's very hard to prove. You have to prove that you maliciously and intentionally lied.
Yeah.
And something people who know me know about me, I would never, ever lie intentionally. That, I'm issue-based, like say Scottsdale, you know, it's possible I would put you on there, because it's nonpartisan. I don't wanna get into it. But with a nonpartisan candidate, you know, who's issue-oriented, that kind of falls in line with where I'm at. That's how we wanted to preserve. I got 900 signatures, I became a notary and a captain for over 100 people. And, because it was important to me. And, I forgot where I was going with that, but, what was I saying?
The legal,
I'm sorry.
the legal issue? Or are you not worried about that?
But, oh yeah, it was so ugly, but the libel stuff that, I don't know, I'm intimidated right now, I'm kind of scared, kind of afraid what's he going to do. I mean, does he have a case against me? But I stand behind every single thing I say, and this is what's so ugly about politics. They make it difficult for you to have a view. Oh, that's what I said about my page, it's totally nonpartisan. That's what it was.
And you're not charging people to post $100 a post.
Yeah, right. Oh, no, I would never charge a penny. But what made it so good is that I know I was working with a lot of people who do not share my national political views, but we never talked about it. The fact that we shared the same viewpoint about saving the preserve and keeping a tourist attraction out of there, that's what brought us together. And that's why issue-based, you know, that's why I came today. Because when I asked you, what party are you, you know,
Civil is the party.
yeah, and I think we could accomplish so much more if it was issue-based. Let's stop labeling each other. It's so ugly.
Well, and they get away with it. There's the way the law reads, you know, it's reckless disregard for the truth or malice, right? And political speech is protected because you want people, you know, like Ben Franklin to write in his paper under an assumed name to be able to say stuff, you know, and sometimes it's not very pretty. So it's tough because sometimes that line between it's just a bunch of bullshit and oops, there's an element of truth here. It's so narrow and so hard. Goldwater had a case in the 60s where 100 psychiatrists said he was crazy during that 64 election. And he first time anybody won a case in political speech because one of the people said, yeah, I'm trying to hurt you. It's like, okay, that's malice, right? And reckless disregard.
When
So
he's saying I'm trying to hurt him, it's like, no, I'm trying to expose you because, you know, $32 million pool, you tell people that's one of the 4 reasons it has to be done. That's a lot of money, and it's not true. Prove it. And he never proved it. That he would never admit it. And I'm being sued. I'm hurting. He says I didn't get a job because of, he didn't get a job because of the things I've been saying. Like, what about you calling people whiny little bitches?
yeah,
Oh, yeah. He's horrible.
You always want to get legal advice, but I don't think he's got a foot to stand on.
Thank
He's
you.
just trying to threaten. But talk to a lawyer.
Yeah.
Don't take my advice. What I'm saying. I'm not a
Take
lawyer.
lawyer's advice.
I really do. It is hard to
Yeah.
prove, right?
Yeah.
If you can, I mean, I have the paper trail saying, I stand
Well,
behind
tit for
everything I've
tat
said.
especially is
Well, and
something.
how much money is he gonna spend? I
He
mean,
doesn't
Right.
have, he said he's representing himself.
Well,
He doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
And, you know, he declared bankruptcy in February. I've never posted about that. He's $6 million in debt, at least. You wouldn't believe the court cases against him. That's all comes out in discovery.
Yeah.
And on me, I didn't have a parking ticket. That was expunged 5 years ago. You know, but hats off to you because it's ugly out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons my wife wasn't here and won't be at anything. It's like,
How resilient
she is.
are you?
Pardon?
How resilient are you?
Well, what do you think? You've been 20 minutes with me. Yeah, a lot of stuff just rolls off, you know. There's a lot of name calling out there. Yeah, I get it, you know. At
What
the
do
end-
they call you?
Well, I've had a couple of you fucking asshole.
Oh,
no, really,
yeah,
it's kind of
that's
like,
pretty common these
huh,
days.
well, okay, you know, but it's, you know, at the end of the day, most people,
Misguided anger.
and here's the deal. When you're in a Twitter war, it's ugly. When you're face to face, it takes all of that away. Because people aren't gonna do that in front of other people.
Well, I was going to ask, how do you create that forum and honestly introduce the civil party as something that is that, you know, let's
Yeah.
bring ideas together in a room from various, you know, home bases and viewpoints,
Well-
and create a forum that discusses issues that
Yep.
are close to home, not polarizing.
Hopefully that is something Melissa and I can get going at ASU.
You're looking at it. Yeah, this is it. I mean.
Yeah.
Well, this gets it out. The real
Yeah.
debates, we think probably is gonna happen at ASU.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, ASU, what a blessing that you have the conduit into that. How do you have any current plans on engaging, you know, poli-sci departments or various?
Public affairs group,
Yeah.
I think is what Melissa's looking at.
Great.
Exciting.
Wrap it up. Thank you very much.
Screw all you voters.
Back to Twitter.
Yeah, let's do some